Thanks for your support, my dear friend. The channel's situation is now a little okay. But please keep comments because we don't get constant interaction, then this little push-up will again roll back. So let's start our story. It was clear that he expected to die. On the contrary, he did not believe in Violet's love. He believes that the garden replaces his love. What Violet really needed by her side was still the garden, not him. It was only after Violet's thoughts reached that point that she burst into tears. She hated everyone who made him grow up like this. Everyone who raised him like this was ultimately the one who helped isolate her in the South. As she began to cry, Jen and Flip's faces grew even darker. At the age of 18, from the moment of marriage, Violet had been more mature, noble, and more patient than anyone else, but no one could have imagined seeing her cry out loud like a child. While she was crying bitterly, the door to the operating room opened. And then the doctor walked out with a look on his face as if he had seen something in vain. Violet's tearful eyes meet the doctor, who is dazed until Jen asks about the condition. The doctor, swallowing nervously, explains that the bleeding wasn't as severe as expected, hinting at a possible spell. Violet turns pale at the suggestion. Hyle arrives and asks if the patient is okay, to which the doctor replies that while he can't guarantee, there's a good chance of recovery. Relieved, Violet breathes heavily and Jen comforts her, while Flip looks on worriedly. Hyle hands the doctor an envelope with instructions for dealing with reporters, warning against mentioning witchcraft. Violet, feeling grateful to Hyle, tries to thank him but collapses from dizziness, recalling a similar feeling from her childhood. Hyle helps her and asks if she can give a statement to the officers. Violet insists on doing so despite her condition, determined to report calmly and seek justice. She suspects Ash will try to silence the investigation but wants to act before her memories fade. Though her friends are worried about her health, Violet insists she's fine and proceeds to give her statement. Her resilience and grace are striking to those around her, including Jen and Flip, who watch her with concern and admiration. As Hyle and Violet move to the next building, Hyle asked if what happened when Violet was 6 had happened again, and she nodded. Hyle noted that the CEO owed his life to Violet multiple times. They discussed the difficulties of accessing Alika, where they might find answers about what happened. Arriving at the building, Hyle offered to take the officer while Violet headed straight to Carlson's hospital room. Carlson, recovering from surgery and handcuffed to the bed, looked at Violet blankly. Violet, in an uncharacteristic display of anger, grabbed scissors from a closet, but the police officers stopped her. She coldly confronted Carlson, accusing him of being selfish. Hyle whispered reassurances about dealing with Carlson after his deportation, which calmed Violet. Violet requested the officers to leave so she could talk to Carlson alone. They complied, respecting her status. Sitting by Carlson's bed, Violet gently but firmly questioned him about his betrayal. Carlson, feeling overwhelmed by guilt and futility, confessed that he had given the rent from Violet's land to Ash in exchange for drugs. He revealed that proof documents were hidden in his private theater in the capital. Violet decided to report the theft of her property and asked Hyle to retrieve the documents. Hyle left to send a telegram to the capital, ensuring that the evidence would be collected. After Hyle left excitedly, Violet calmly finished her statement to the officers. Exhausted, she entered Winter's hospital room. Despite being in the best hospital room, Jen insisted on a new bed for Violet, which would be donated to the hospital later. Winter remained unconscious for 3 days, leaving Violet worn out. Hyle reported finding the document Carlson mentioned and suggested keeping it at Canuck until Winter woke up. Grateful for the support, Violet acknowledged Winter's subordinates who constantly visited, bringing fruit baskets and donations. Feeling anxious, Violet sat by Winter's bed, held his hand, and softly spoke to him, urging him to wake up. After a gentle kiss on his forehead, she lay down and fell asleep facing him. Suddenly awakened by a commotion, Violet wished it was Winter but realized the noise was from outside the room. Catherine, Winter's mother, was causing a scene. Despite not wanting to leave Winter, Violet stepped outside to prevent the staff from suffering. She told Catherine that Winter hadn't woken up yet and asked her to come back later. Catherine insisted on seeing her son Winter, despite Violet's objections due to his poor condition. Catherine, accompanied by the Warhausens, pressed Violet, who refused to let them in, asserting it would be better to wait until Winter woke up. When Catherine accused Violet of cruelty, Violet firmly asked them to leave, citing her position as Winter's wife. Catherine, taken aback, struck Violet, who retaliated by slapping her back, shocking everyone present. The tense moment was interrupted when Winter, still weak and in pain, appeared in the doorway, having heard the commotion. Ignoring his mother's concern, he asked Flip who had hit whom, revealing his awareness of the altercation and his protective stance towards Violet. Winter, having regained consciousness, questions Flip about the altercation and learns that Catherine slapped Violet, who retaliated. Disbelieving at first, Winter dismisses his mother's actions, lamenting the state of the world, and then tends to Violet, concerned for her well-being despite his own pain. Jokingly, he tells her those who allowed Catherine to hurt her should be fired. Violet, overwhelmed and angry, calls Winter selfish, a villain, and curses him for his self-centered actions. Winter, attempting to lighten the mood, responds playfully, which further frustrates Violet. Jen, the servant, senses Violet's struggle to articulate her anger and refrains from teaching her more severe language. Violet's focus shifts to Winter's health, and she instructs Jen to call a doctor. As the doctor arrives, Violet asks the Warhausens to leave, stating Winter is too ill for visitors. Catherine and the Warhausens protest, claiming Catherine has the right as Winter's mother. This angers Winter, who feels ashamed seeing them attack his wife while he is incapacitated. Violet listens quietly before addressing the Warhausens, asserting that any necessary discipline during her upbringing was the responsibility of her royal family, not the Warhausens. She clearly stated that I have learned this violence from blooming household. Her calm demeanor and firm words silence the Warhausens. She implies that by criticizing her, they are disrespecting the royal family's etiquette. After this confrontation, Violet returns to Winter, who is now calming down thanks to painkillers. Despite his weak state, Winter remains anxious about Violet's distant behavior. He reaches out to her, asking to see her face and expressing his acceptance that Violet is the only family he has left. He pleads for her to stay, regardless of any anger she might have. Violet, frustrated and emotional, confronts Winter about his reckless actions that endangered his life. She demands to know why he made her promises of love, fearing he would leave her forever. Winter, realizing his mistake, apologizes and admits he wanted to ensure she knew he loved her in case he couldn't speak again. His response only partially alleviates Violet's anger, as she pushes him away, calling him selfish. In a struggle, Winter hugs Violet, asking for her understanding and forgiveness. Violet, exhausted and overwhelmed, helps Winter back to bed and decides to leave for a walk to calm down. Winter, too weak to stop her, watches as she leaves. Once outside, Violet breaks down, thanking God for Winter's recovery. She weeps, expressing her gratitude for his life and the chance to be together again. Now it has been 1 month from the incident. Winter and Violet's relationship remains strained as summer passes, with Violet holding on to her anger towards Winter. Winter desperately wants to ask Violet about her cryptic words when he was injured but fears it will push her further away. He resolves to reassure her that he won't bring up uncomfortable topics, hoping it will ease the tension between them. On the day of his discharge, Winter seeks out Violet at her favorite spot under a maple tree. He attempts to engage her, promising not to discuss sensitive topics, and pleads for her to stop avoiding him. Winter playfully takes her book and tries to make her laugh. He asks her to smile, expressing how much her avoidance is hurting him. Violet, emotional, finally confesses her love for Winter and explains that she was angry and scared because his reckless actions made her fear losing him. Winter is overjoyed by her confession and reassures her of his love. He promises never to risk his life again and to avoid topics that distress her. They share a tender moment, and Violet smiles, which greatly pleases Winter. Before leaving the hospital, Winter has a conversation with Giannis, who expresses concern about Winter's miraculous recovery. Winter suspects some form of magic might have been involved and decides to investigate further. Giannis assures Winter that he kept the incident discreet. On the journey home, Winter and Violet discuss evidence they found about Carlson's corruption. Violet teases Winter, and he revels in her playful demeanor, feeling content in their improved relationship. Upon arriving home, the staff warmly welcomes them, showing particular concern for Violet's well-being. Violet addresses the staff's worries and requests a family meeting to be arranged. She reflects on her disappointment about not being pregnant and her desire for a family with Winter. Violet proposes a new way for Winter to make amends when she's angry, sharing a bedroom and comforting her to sleep in upon waking. Winter, initially surprised, agrees to her request, indicating a deeper commitment to their relationship and resolving conflicts. As they return to Violet's bedroom, Winter prepares himself for the evening, meticulously choosing his pajamas and grooming himself, while expressing frustration about Harlan's delayed arrival and the lack of staff visits during his hospital stay. Winter discussed the lack of staff attention and Winter's displeasure with the situation, reflecting on Hyle's dedication and the efforts of others like Eglin, Anjali, and Giannis. Violet reprimands Winter for not acknowledging their support, emphasizing the importance of showing gratitude. Winter agrees to handle the employee acknowledgments and reassures Violet with his usual playful banter. In the bedroom, Violet covers Winter with a blanket, and they engage in light-hearted teasing. Winter's attempt to sleep together is met with resistance as Violet expresses her discomfort. They eventually discuss the idea of going on a date to resolve their issues, settling on a play at the open-air theater. Winter humorously complains about the cold and suggests they'll need to sleep together through the winter. As Winter and Violet lie in bed, they both struggle with the intimacy and the changes in their relationship dynamics. Violet acknowledges her discomfort and Winter's obsession with her daily assurances of love, revealing his deeper insecurities and need for constant affirmation. Winter proposes a morning ritual of saying, "Good morning," and "I love you," to ease his anxiety, which Violet agrees to. In the morning, Winter is emotionally overwhelmed by Violet's affectionate greeting, feeling moved to the point of tears. Violet notices his unusual reaction and is touched by his vulnerability. Winter's emotional response surprises both of them, and Violet feels a strange satisfaction from seeing him so open, leading to a deepened connection between them. In the intimate moments between Winter and Violet, Winter is emotionally overwhelmed by Violet's repeated affirmations of love, struggling with his anxiety and insecurity about their relationship. Violet comforts him by stroking his hair and whispering, "I love you," multiple times, which helps to break down the emotional barriers between them. Despite Winter's realization that Violet's love is different from what he has known before, he still grapples with his old belief that love must be reciprocated with material gestures. He is determined to find a way to show his gratitude and affection to Violet, including buying her what she truly desires. The narrative shifts to a month later, where Winter and Violet are preparing for their day. Winter, showing a supportive and affectionate side, assists Violet with her outfit and shoes. As Violet heads to a luncheon with the Lawrence family, she experiences mixed feelings of gratitude and embarrassment over Winter's attentive behavior. At the luncheon, tensions arise as Violet confronts the Lawrence family about their attempts to undermine her position. She faces opposition from her cousin Ariella and others who question her right to make decisions. Violet asserts her authority and is supported by some family members, though there is significant resistance. During the meal, Violet addresses the scandal involving Ash, who is accused of conspiring with Lord Carlson to embezzle her property. Violet provides evidence and stands firm against Ash's anger, while the Lawrence family's reactions range from supportive to hostile. Violet's demeanor remains composed as she challenges Ash's actions and reaffirms her decision to distance herself from unprofitable business ventures. Jen, Violet's maid, presents a box of items and the situation becomes more tense with the revelation of the newspaper article detailing Ash's embezzlement. Violet uses this moment to reinforce her stance against Ash and the Lawrence family's manipulations. After delivering her message, Violet politely excuses herself and leaves the room, followed by Ash and Jeff Lawrence. Jeff, angry and defensive, accuses Violet of shaming the family and trying to take her father's seat. He and Ash discuss excluding Violet from the Lawrence family during the upcoming family meeting. Violet remains calm and reveals that she has learned about Jeff's connections with Ash, suggesting that Jeff has been involved in questionable activities. Ash, who is increasingly frustrated, tries to downplay the significance of the rent scandal, but Violet argues that it has broader implications and has angered those who supported the royal family. As tensions escalate, Violet's bodyguards, led by Santer Tan, arrive. Santer, a former sports player and now a bodyguard, is introduced as Violet's new security detail. Violet is initially surprised by the heavy security but appreciates the support. After bidding farewell to Ash and Jeff, Violet leaves with her new guards, who make way for her as she exits. Ash, annoyed and feeling the coldness from the staff, returns to the dining table, where the atmosphere seems more hostile than before. Winter, needing someone to handle the task of writing greetings on bonus envelopes, recruits Polly, a young intern from the Kanik clan who recently turned 15. Polly is nervous but follows Winter's instructions to write personalized messages. Hyle, who was previously responsible for gift-giving, enters and is surprised to see Polly as the acting secretary. Winter explains that Polly is temporary and mentions that he has been dealing with threatening letters from Hyle's parents. Winter hands Hyle the threatening letters, suggesting he should deal with them and implying that the threats could result in serious legal consequences for the senders. Hyle is initially outraged but then excitedly accepts the task, appreciating Winter's gesture. Hyle's enthusiasm is fueled by the prospect of seeing the threats dealt with severely. He even expresses his loyalty to Winter and shares that Violet had tried to confront Carlson Rowe, showing her strong resolve. Violet's meals grew longer as she listened to the bodyguards' stories about Winter. Santer recounted how the CEO, when drunk, expressed his feelings about Violet, calling her angelic and feeling unworthy of her. Violet blushed, realizing Winter's feelings. Later, Violet found Winter outside the restaurant, and they decided to buy new clothes. At a popular downtown costume shop, the owner recognized Violet, causing a stir. Winter bought Violet an expensive dress and an emerald necklace, matching her look perfectly. Afterward, they visited an open-air theater. Violet enjoyed the play, though it made Winter uneasy because it reminded him of their relationship. Despite this, Winter planned to arrange a proper theater for Violet's enjoyment. As they left, rain began to fall, prompting Winter to protect Violet with his coat. They shared a tender moment, with Winter vowing to be a gentleman for Violet, despite his earlier reluctance. Violet, drenched from the autumn rain, took a long soak in the bathtub to warm up and relieve fatigue. Jen floated flower petals in the bath and wrapped Violet's hair in a towel before leaving. As Violet relaxed, Winter entered the bathroom, startling her. He offered her water and helped her out of the bath, wrapping her in a towel. Winter and Violet had a tender moment, with Violet insisting he rest due to his injury. Winter, despite his pain, declared he would always protect her, even at the risk of his life. Afterward, they grew closer, with Winter teasingly demanding affection from Violet. They talked about visiting Alika, Winter's mother's homeland, which was notorious for excluding mixed-race people. Winter revealed his plans to assess the land for development and possibly buy it, despite Violet's concerns. She worried about the implications of Winter's intentions, as his perspective on the world often differed drastically from hers. Despite their differences, Winter reassured her, emphasizing that dealing with the Blooming family was their immediate priority. In the south, 7 hours by train from the capital, summer was ending, and the party season at the Blooming family mansion was starting again. The Duke and Duchess of Blooming, despite their strained relationship with their son Winter, continued to host lavish tea parties to maintain the appearance of financial stability. The Warhausens believed their wealth was intact because the tea parties had not diminished, even after rumors of Winter's terminal illness. During a tea party, Mrs. Landon, a notable landowner, arrived late and flustered, revealing that Southern workers were striking and moving to regions owned by Winter. The Bloomings were unaware of the seriousness of this, as Winter and the Kanik clan were financing the workers' migration and building schools for their children. Mrs. Landon criticized Catherine for slapping Violet while Winter was ill, suggesting it fueled resentment and led to these repercussions. Despite her warnings, many nobles didn't grasp the gravity of the situation, while the Bloomings remained oblivious, concerned only with their immediate social standing. Mrs. Landon left the tea party frustrated, and James sent the butler to investigate the claims further. Winter and Violet discuss the lack of progress in a drug trafficking case, which was being handled secretly. Winter expresses his frustration but hopes to participate in the upcoming Lawrence Family Council. However, Violet believes it's inappropriate for someone who might succeed the Blooming family to attend. Winter regrets not taking Violet's last name and feels uneasy. Violet, showing her resolve, informs him that Ash will attend the meeting with royal protocol, and Winter reassures her that he has already accounted for the expenses. He offers Violet resources from the company, but she insists that the company is not personal property. Winter then suggests taking Eglin, who is unemployed, for the day. Winter finds Violet easy to understand as she consistently walks the right path. Before Violet can respond, Winter heads to work, telling her to stay inside because it's cold. Despite feeling lonely after Winter leaves, Violet dismisses her feelings as childish and looks forward to being with him again. As she and Jen leave, Eglin runs up with a stolen protocol list for an upcoming family meeting. Despite not requesting it, Violet appreciates Eglin's effort. Jen is surprised by the extravagance of the protocols, especially for Ash Lawrence, who seems to be treating himself like royalty. Eglin requests to be hired again, explaining that Winter gives her too much work. Jen notes that Ash is acting like a king with excessive protocols, while Violet has no desire for such power. Eglin mentions that Winter had grand plans, including wanting to buy a cruise ship, but was dissuaded. The group plans to shop for tableware and decorations for the family meeting. Violet is particularly interested in the trendy light bulb decorations, symbolizing wealth. Violet inquires about Winter always traveling with Hyle, and Eglin explains that Winter dislikes unnecessary protocols but ensures all work is documented. Eglin and Jen recall a stressful incident involving missing reports at the Solid Hotel, highlighting Winter's strictness. As they talk, Violet feels period cramps and asks Jen for some medicine and tea, masking her discomfort with a smile. At that moment, Violet sighed inwardly, realizing with a pang of disappointment that she had once again failed to conceive a child. James, having left the tea party, returned from a tour of the brewery with his butler and found the situation worse than Mrs. Landon had described. The brewery was completely empty, and whispers among passers-by made him nervous. He overheard people discussing Princess Violet's establishment of 5 tuition-free schools, which seemed to be a hot topic among those with children. Inside, Catherine was fidgeting while Diab looked distressed on the sofa. Diab revealed that Winter had frozen Catherine's trust fund, leaving her in despair. James suggested Catherine apologize to Violet to get the trust released. Diab also pleaded with her, emphasizing the importance of the money for his business. Catherine, devastated, knew she needed Winter's help but was unwilling to apologize to Violet, whom she blamed for ruining the family's peace. Her deep resentment toward Violet made her reluctant to take the necessary steps. She stormed off to her room, ignoring James's attempts to persuade her gently, and found herself missing Winter. After a sweet week of vacation, Hyle reported the progress of the new schools to Winter with enthusiasm. Of the 5 buildings purchased, 2 would be ready to accept students by mid-next month, and the other 3 by next fall, with over 1,000 applications already received. Winter, who had never attended school himself, reflected on the irony of helping establish one. Hyle praised Violet for her role in the project, and Winter acknowledged it was her doing. The first school was an extension of a community hall near Calftown Station, which excited the local community. Hyle interacted with some children eager to attend, but Winter warned them about talking to strangers. He then ordered Hyle to handle school supplies and uniforms, showing a mix of gruffness and care. Winter's announcement about building the school as a means to improve the South surprised many but was understood by Hyle as influenced by Violet's integrity. Winter, despite his tough exterior, had a soft spot for children. He reflected on the idea of having children with Violet, feeling a mix of longing and contentment with their current life. Winter then inquired about Violet's school days and expressed a desire to see her in her school uniform. Despite knowing it was difficult, he insisted on buying a painting of her in the uniform from the Royal Museum. Hyle, realizing Winter's determination, resigned himself to making the impossible possible, understanding that Winter's stubbornness was unyielding. Winter returned to the capital late at night after a week-long business trip to Longwood and Cape Town. Eager to see his wife, Violet, he went straight to her room without stopping by his own. Despite it being past midnight, Winter wanted to be near her, even if it meant waking her up. Upon entering her room, he saw Violet sleeping peacefully, which instantly eased his tension. He knelt by her bed, resting his chin on his arm, and softly greeted her. Violet woke up, hugged him, and asked about his trip. She urged him to wash up and come back to share the details. After his bath, Winter returned with a letter from Violet's mother, Catherine. The letter was filled with apologies and a request to meet. Winter, feeling protective, tore up the letter, insisting that Violet didn't need to meet with anyone from the Blooming family who only wanted her help for their own benefit. He reassured her that he would handle everything related to his parents and that she shouldn't have to deal with them. Violet agreed, which made Winter happy. He expressed his determination to keep their home a safe place for her. He then asked about Violet's schooling, curious about her experience. Violet mentioned she attended the royal school, which made Winter joke about buying it for her. She laughed and teased him about his habit of buying buildings, which led to a light-hearted moment between them. As they talked, Violet fell asleep. Winter, still watching her, remembered another letter he had hidden out of jealousy. It was from Perrin Doss, and despite knowing it was innocent, Winter felt ashamed for wanting to read it out of suspicion. He decided against it, not wanting Violet to think of him as a rude villain. He placed the letter back on her bedside table, covered himself, and turned away, reflecting on how much his wife had tamed him. Despite his insecurities and protectiveness, he realized that his connection with Violet was what truly mattered. The next morning, Violet woke to find a letter from Perrin on her bedside table. The letter, written in an unusually angry tone, informed her that Sharon was pregnant and instructed her to catch Aus if she saw him. Despite the initial harshness, Perrin expressed concern for Violet and a desire to meet her soon. Violet felt conflicted, reading the letter, and Winter, who had woken up, asked about its contents. When she hesitated, he took the letter and read it. Winter commented calmly on the situation, suggesting Sharon and Aus should marry quickly. Violet, shocked by the premarital pregnancy, couldn't understand Winter's nonchalant attitude. Winter made light of the situation, even joking about how the pregnancy likely came about, which embarrassed Violet. Despite her initial shock, she agreed that they should help Aus avoid Perrin's wrath. Winter suggested hiding Aus in one of his hotels and contacting him through Violet's maid. The conversation shifted to speculating about what Sharon and Aus's baby might be like, with Violet expressing curiosity and excitement. However, the discussion also brought up feelings of longing and loneliness for Violet, as she remembered her own struggles with conceiving over the past 3 years. Despite these emotions, Violet resolved to accept her impatience as part of life and felt her heart growing stronger. She decided to write a supportive letter to Sharon, understanding the surprise and challenges she must be facing. At the tea house by the Wreck River, Winter met with Catherine, who appeared noticeably stressed and thinner than before. Catherine asked Winter to allow her to meet Violet and apologize, but Winter firmly refused, emphasizing that Violet's decision was final. Winter expressed frustration, reflecting on how Catherine never regarded him as her son, especially recalling a past incident where she slapped Violet in front of him. He compared his past actions to his current views, revealing that he once believed love could be bought but has since realized that it was a misconception driven by his parents' affection for his wealth rather than for him personally. Catherine, desperate, pleaded with Winter to return to the South, but he dismissed her plea, revealing that he has control over Southern businesses and will not tolerate any disruption. Winter concluded the meeting by telling Catherine to enjoy the tea and leave, reinforcing his boundary and detachment. Our video ends here, my dear friends. Thanks for watching this new season. If you want to see more, please like and comment type Winter and Violet. Till then, bye bye and take care.